Okay, let's go for it. Just a heads up to everyone, we're going to record this session so that people can view it in their own good time. So we'll go ahead and get rolling. Just some quick introductions to get started. My name is Joanna, and I'm the state coordinator for National History Day in Idaho. And I'm excited to have Ben here with me. Ben is my co-coordinator. He started during the craziness. So, yay for Ben.
We do the best we can.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, we have so many fun things to talk about tonight. We're excited to update everybody on what's going on with National History Day more broadly, and then also what's happening with us here in Idaho. So first, let's get into the good stuff, the contests. Just a quick mention though, you don't have to do the contest. This year is total chaos and madness. If you're able to do research, meaningful research with your students and maybe connected to the theme, I think that's a win for this year. But we are excited to tell you what we're able to do with contests, but just know there's no obligation to compete. So this is our schedule for this year for contests. We were able to push our contest season back by a couple of weeks. The first regional will be March 6th, and the last regional for West Ada will be April 3rd. And we are planning for the regional contests to all be virtual contests. However, we will be doing interviews with judges and adapting them per region based on access to internet and other factors. So as you're planning for this year, make sure you plan so that your students' projects will be done by the close of registration and the project submission dates. If you have any questions about anything that we're talking about, you're welcome to unmute and ask or put it in the chat, and then we'll get into it. Next up, we wanted to kind of explain what we're thinking about the virtual contest versus in person. For the regionals, the reasons that we decided to make them virtual now are because we've spent a lot of time and effort considering the obstacles and opportunities presented by having this crazy year. And we felt that the most fair and the safest route was to call the regionals right now and plan for them to be virtual right now. And we're going to wait as late as possible to decide on the state contest. It could be a very real possibility that there's a vaccine available this spring or that cases really decline, and we would be able to safely hold a state contest the 1st of May. And so we're going to wait and decide as late as we possibly can. But we're excited that we're able to correct some of the inequities in our program caused by geography and cost in having virtual components in our contests. We felt last year having the judges judge virtually and not get to see the cuteness. There's no cute factor in the judging. And it seemed that we had more fair, more accurate results. And we're also able to save on costs for everyone, not just us, but for schools and for students too. So again, any questions, just shout them out. Go right ahead. Let's see. So you're probably wondering, how are the different categories going to be submitted for the contest? The big category, I think, that had a difficult time last year was exhibits and performances, especially exhibits, I think, because a lot of kids got locked out of their exhibit when schools closed. And so we had teachers very graciously sneaking back into their school with their cell phone cameras, taking pictures in the dark. You guys are awesome. So this year, students will have two options for exhibits. One They can do the same thing as we did last year, which is build a real physical exhibit and then take photos of it, load those photos into a PowerPoint or slides show and submit that as a PDF, or they can create their exhibit digitally using Google Draw or a similar program. We have specific guidelines that have been determined to help make it fair across the board, whether you're creating your exhibit in a digital format or in a photo or photographing your exhibit. So look for that information to be coming to our website, and we'll send it out to you via email as well. Performances this year will need to submit not only their paperwork, but an MP4 file, which is a video of their performance. We will have students submit their MP4 file via Google Drive or Streamable so that we can access them. And if students advance to the national contest, they will also have a script template worksheet that they will submit with their MP4 file. For our regionals and our state contest, we'll just be asking for the MP4 file and the process paper and annotated bibliography. If you have any questions about those, don't hesitate to ask. Documentaries will be submitted similar to performances using an MP4 file of the documentary and a PDF. And papers and websites will be done the same as usual, although papers now have a process paper with them. That's a change to the rules this year. So they'll be submitting their paper, their process paper, and their annotated bibliography together. Websites will have their process paper and annotated bibliography embedded as a PDF on their website. So they'll just be submitting their URL. Any questions about how categories will be submitted this year? Oh my gosh, Ben, we actually explained it clearly. That's a COVID miracle. Okay, yes, next up, just a quick heads up about judging interviews. We're working really hard to make it possible for all of our regions to Zoom in or Google Meet or whatever students have most access to. But in the event that we have a region or maybe a group of students who do not have stable access to the internet, if we can't find a workaround, we will also have them submit interview questions and record themselves answering those via Flipgrid. So whatever ends up happening this year, judges will get that personal connection with students and be able to see them, and they'll be able to talk about their work and defend their research. The state contest will, judging interviews will be done via Zoom, and we'll have whole cohorts of students interviewed together. So everyone in a flight will be interviewed by the judges as a group, and they'll all be asked the same questions and reply to similar questions, and they'll get to see the other students in their flight. We definitely want to make sure that students are safe when they're meeting virtually with judges and adults that they don't know.
Yeah, Joanna, that was our concern in Eastern Idaho. We have a lot of students that don't have a strong internet connection, or even students who don't have internet at all. So that was our concern with the interviews. So we had thought maybe even just email, but it sounds like you're wanting something more face-to-face, at least in some way.
Yeah, I think that would be great, but we do not want to place any undue burden on students or have them feel concerned that their project won't be judged the same as others if they don't have access to the internet. So we're gonna go region by region, working with you, wonderful teachers in each region to decide. So Shannon is in the Eastern Idaho region, and we've already discussed that we'll probably end up doing something less dependent on the internet, right? Like have students answer a list of 5 questions, write their responses so judges can see those. If we can get teachers on Flipgrid to help students, that'd be great, but we just don't know what the spring will look like, right? So we're gonna do our best, but make sure the playing field is level for all of our students.
Thank you.
Does that sound good, Shannon?
Yeah, we'll just, I think, I mean, as a teacher, the key word has always been flexible, but I think this year we've all become Olympic gymnasts. So,
For
or
sure
ballerinas,
are.
one of the two. Our flexibility is highly impressive anymore. So we just want it to be a positive experience, of course, just like you guys, for all of our students involved. So
Yeah, for sure. And we just want the students to feel like they are valued and the work they've put into their project matters outside of a grade with their teacher, right? So that's that. Whatever we can do to make the interview as fair as possible, I think we'll make it work. Sound good? Okay, awesome. Okay, so we want to share some teacher resources that you may or may not yet be aware of. We're always trying to get more information to you. Right now I'm teaching a multi-state workshop with Utah and Nevada. Those sessions have been really great. We have a workshop coming up that has a World War I theme. We're partnering with the World War I Commission, and it will be about how to adapt primary sources in your virtual classroom, right? Without the hard paper and the cool photos and the artifacts, how can you engage students with primary sources? So look for more information coming about that. On September 30th, National History Day is partnering with NEH to do a workshop about primary sources in a virtual classroom as well. That's sponsored by the NEH, and we'll have some really awesome information for teachers. And then this spring, we'll be partnering with Boise School District to do a workshop in preparation for next year. I myself am super excited for next year. 2020 can be totally over. That will be fine. Anyway, so keep an eye open for those. Also, we know you know about the teacher toolkit. We've been adding a lot of things this year. Everything's updated with the new theme. We've tried to incorporate a lot of things to help you in the virtual classroom, and we're working on more things to help with that hybrid model this year. You know, as you're in and out of your classroom, come what may, we'll be adding things to the toolkit all year. And if you are ever working on something, or you're kind of stuck about how you're gonna cover some material or get your kids to learn a skill, just reach out to Ben and I. We would be happy to help connect you with more resources from other affiliates and from things that we're working on. So just let us know, and we're happy to help in any way we can.
And Joanna,
Yes, Ben.
we do have a question in the chat from Laura.
Okay.
She says, where do we find the teacher toolkit?
It is here at history.idaho.gov/NHDI. And that's our National History Day in Idaho homepage. You can find lots of great information in the teacher toolkit. Thanks for asking, Laura. Also, I put Ben and Joe as a resource because we want you to know we're here for you, and we're not just cheering for you, but we want to help you through this year. One of the great things about National History Day is how flexible it is. And so you can make it work for you this year, no matter what's going on. And you can pick and choose what parts of it you incorporate and how you're able to make it work. We also would love to have you sign up and register with National History Day in Idaho this year. This is something new that we're starting. Every fall, we'll be getting you to sign up with us, and then we will mail you a back to school kit. We have the new rule book. We have a hard copy for you. The theme book for this year. We made some really cool stickers and a cool poster that has photos from the Idaho State Archives. So we're excited to send all of that with you. If you'll go to our homepage, you'll see a link to register with us, and then we'll send out that information to you. Okay, we've also been working on some new things for students. We have looked at the idea of doing student webinars or maybe some student videos. We know students are pretty fed up with screens, so webinars might not be a good fit, but maybe some videos geared directly towards students. So a lot of students we know are doing National History Day on their own this year, as they're looking for projects because they're doing homeschooling or just something to supplement what they're doing virtually. And we'll so look for news coming from us soon about student engagement coming up. We've also added a new page on our webpage, which is a student toolkit. It's similar to the teacher toolkit, but it's geared directly towards students and just shares videos to get them excited about National History Day and to maybe see the broader picture of National History Day and connect with other students doing National History Day. We have examples of projects that have won in the past, guides to help students create their project this year, topic ideas, all kinds of things. And we have our first rollout of the student toolkit out right now, and we'll be beefing it up and adding more as we go. Let's talk about the new stuff for this year. As you know, the judging criteria and judging forms changed for this coming contest season. Now students will be judged based on 20% of their project on the clarity of their presentation, meaning how neat it looks, how clean, how well organized, and then 80% is on the historical quality. So there's no longer a section on their connection to the theme. They still need to have a connection to the theme, but instead this is a screenshot of the judging form. Instead, we're asking students to incorporate the theme more throughout their project as they're looking at multiple points of view, primary sources, historical context, those things. You can find all of the new judging forms in the teacher toolkit. You can also find them at nhd.org so that you can read through. Ben and I are super excited about having a rubric be a part of the judging form, because we've actually been using a rubric with our judges for the last 2 years. And so this is kind of a step in a better direction, I think, to evaluate students on more clear criteria. So make sure that you take a look here, and we will be training judges at the contest, going through kind of a norming process to acquaint them with the rubric and helping them know how to use the rubric. Also, we have a new section this year that students will be judged on, called Student Voice. So we want to hear more from students. This section is designed to embolden students to use their own voice as they are developing their own historical argument based on their own research. We have noticed over the last few years that students have become very adept at playing the primary source game, I guess you'd say, or quote game, where they beef out their websites and their exhibits with tons of words, but they don't count in their word count because they're quotes, right? And we've seen students in increasing numbers quote secondary sources on their project to make their case for them so that they can use more words. But what we want to see is students really use their own words and make their own argument in their own voice and use their own voice. So what this means is a shift or a reframing of how they make their argument. So instead of showing off all the experts whose work you've read or experts you've interviewed, we want them to know we value their research, their thinking, their analysis, and conclusions. And what this doesn't mean is that they shouldn't be doing secondary source research. They should absolutely be doing secondary source research but we want to hear more of their take on things, less on the experts' take on things. It's also not their opinion, right? Because they're not writing their opinion on these historical events. They're writing their argument based on the research they've done and the primary sources that they've evaluated. Also, this isn't permission to write in the first person, because again, that's not what historians do, but it is their voice making their own argument. Is this making sense? Nodding, people whose face I can see. Shannon, that wasn't a nod. Okay. So do you have any specific questions about student voice or thoughts? No? Okay. Well, you guys are being creepily quiet. Go ahead.
Change because I'm new to NHD. We've only done it 2 years in a row. I have elementary kids, and I have noticed that some of these boards and projects are just loaded with people making the case without having to hit their word count. So
exactly,
I see the change, and I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super psyched for sure, because I think we've all seen, the exhibit board that clearly has 3,000 words on it, but only the correct number that are their own words. And we really want students to, take a risk, make their own argument, have their own thoughts about why something is historically significant and relevant. So we're hoping, I know it will take a couple years, but we're hoping to see more of projects that are less wordy, but the words matter, right? Because they're based on their analysis.
Mm-hmm. I know for middle school kids, that's just hard because they don't.
Oh yeah.
They don't know what to say. They don't know how to say it, and so when they can make those words say what they want to say, they're pretty proud. It's like, oh look, I figured it out. And so some of them are ingenious. It's seamless. And so
yeah, they're very definitely ingenious. We're not questioning the ingenuity of students. Yeah, this is definitely going to be hard for our youth and junior division, because it's another depth of knowledge, right? To be able to say in your own words what something means. And we're hoping that this will kind of shift the focus more toward students looking at primary sources after they've been informed by their secondary source research, and doing more thinking, more writing, more analysis with their time, right? Because in the past, what they end up doing is reading so much and finding so many things, almost too many things to know how to make their argument. So hopefully this will mean less time better spent. Does that make sense?
So Joanna, with that, we want an in-depth look. So I know in the past, and I got away from this last couple of years, but in the past we had a teacher who they required a minimum of 30 sources. Well, when 15 of those sources are crap, does it really, sorry. I hang out with junior high kids.
You can say crap. You can say crap.
They're not good. They're not good sources. And so does it, like you said, then they end up with so much information that they can't see the forest for the trees. And so I know that NHD purposefully does not say that in-depth research is this many sources, because really it's the quality of the sources and the different perspectives of the sources that we're looking at.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to share, as a new NHD teacher, I didn't know any better. I based it on what the last person, this is how many sources they have to have.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to kind of figure that out on my own. So maybe as we go forward, that can be part of the training, is again, focusing on quality sources and where students can find that. And they don't need 75. They need, but they need different perspectives and good, solid, and books, not just the internet.
Yeah, I mean, this year, I don't know about you, all the libraries in Boise have been closed since March. So I'm not going to quibble about books
Right. Well,
this year, right? It's going to be largely virtual.
There are a lot of books that are available online. The Gutenberg
Yeah.
Project has a ton of books online. There's a lot of actual books that are available to students. There's also periodicals, peer-reviewed articles that I think are frequently underutilized that you can access online. And maybe the kids or teachers just don't know where to send kids to find them.
Yeah, I know. I mean, some school districts have access to Gale for their students, right? Or similar places where you can access scholarly articles. JSTOR just announced that they're making their service available for free for this school year. So that will be a great resource to access scholarly articles. That's a great source. I will definitely reiterate, you'll never ever hear us say a number of sources that students need to have. It really depends on, where they're at, where they're working from, what their learning goals and outcomes need to be, and what their topic is, right? If you are doing a project on Jackie Robinson, you're going to have a ton of primary and secondary sources. If you're doing your project on something lesser known, maybe like a local history topic, maybe I'm thinking of like tribal boarding schools because we're working on that. But you might have less primary sources and less secondary sources available to you. What we're saying with student voices, I guess a good way to think of it is a target, right? A bullseye. Think of a bullseye. And students go dead center toward the primary sources. That's the best source of historical information, right? That's dead center. But what you're wanting to do is to teach them how to research by starting out at the further part of the bullseye and narrowing in on the bullseye. Does that make sense? So when you're learning to shoot a bow and arrow or learning target practice, you are hitting the outside. That's those Wikipedia and those Encyclopedia Britannica and those history textbooks, and then you work your way in, going to secondary sources and then primary sources. And so if I were in the classroom, I would teach my students, I'd cover the skills of evaluating sources before we get to researching primary sources, right? So that as they're doing their research, they've already learned how to find good quality sources. And that's going to make it easier for them to have their own voice because they're not spending all of their time wading through what Google first brought up for them, right? And looking at a ton of primary sources without context, or reading a ton of secondary sources, but not able to find what really, the actual primary source information. So we're hoping when students come to their project and they know that it's their words we want and it's their analysis and their argument, it will be a different approach to research. Does that make sense? Yeah, I know this is, I wish it was another year that we were kicking off including student voice and using the new materials, because it would make life a lot easier for us, but it's way past time that we did this. So we're just going to go for it and we'll see what happens. But we are working on developing more ways to explain student voice and to help guide students towards finding their voice and building their argument based on their own thoughts. So look for more ideas coming from us. Does that sound good?
Hey, Joanna.
Yeah.
Since this is a new pathway that we're taking on this, is there any way that in the student toolkit there could be like a video of what you're looking for?
Yes.
Like a something, so we can say this is where we were, this is where we're going.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great idea. Ooh, I'm excited. Yes, we will put a video in the student toolkit about student voice. That's a great idea. And helping the students maybe by showing them examples of what that looks like. We are working on developing examples of what that looks like. One example, let Jeff tell me if you think this would be helpful for your students, is we want to show a website from a previous theme, and you can see how wordy it is. And the student has almost none of their own words because there's so many quotes. And then we're going to show how their word count was maybe 3,000 words, but only 250 were their own. And then show an example of what we're really wanting to see, which is your words and then quotes from primary sources so that you are the expert in your project. Would that be helpful to model the two?
I think it would, except I would change it to like an exhibit, because most of the kids at my school at Eagle Rock, we do a lot of exhibits. Mm-hmm. And okay. We try to pitch the other ideas. It's just exhibits are a little bit easier to handle and less intimidating. And so I think the project that the kids mostly use, and Shannon, I don't know if you've seen the same thing at regionals, is that we have a crap load of exhibits, and the other ones are just tiny, it seems like. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, we used to have a lot more websites before the switch to the new website platform. And so I imagine now that the kinks have been worked out of the new website platform, and kids are obviously becoming technology fiends with everything going on. We'll see an uptick in websites, but definitely exhibits remains the most popular and probably will be for quite some time. So that's a great example. So for sure we'll include that, and I'll let you know when that's in there. Thanks, Jeff. Great.
Cool beans.
Awesome. Okay, let's zip along. Oh, let me see. Okay. Also this year we have a new contest rule book. There are not a ton of changes, but you definitely want to make sure that you have read the new rulebook. I know reading a rulebook sounds like the worst possible thing to do with your time ever, but the rulebook has been rewritten to also be more of a teaching tool to help students and teachers understand why the rules are what they are and what a good project looks like. So it's really worth your time to check out the new rulebook. And we also have a 2-page summary that covers the quick, just a quick highlight of what the new changes are, and we'll be sending that out as well. So stay apprised of the new rules. So I just wanted to check in with you guys about some questions that we've been getting. I really appreciate everyone who took the time to fill out the teacher survey. We read through all of the results, and it was so helpful to see what challenges you're facing this year and what would be helpful to you and what you kind of need. And we definitely heard the same 3 or 4 questions over and over again. So I just want to kind of quickly check in with you on those so that we can give you some quick answers to those big questions, and then we'll open up for questions at the end. One is, how can we keep students motivated this year? In the spring, that was the #1 issue that everyone was having, right? Is how do we keep students engaged when it's chaos everywhere? And I wanted to hear from you what you're thinking and what you're seeing as effective ways to keep students motivated. I wanted to share this video. This video was shared at the National Contest Award ceremony, but it's a vignette of students talking about what National History Day meant to them this year. And I thought this would be really inspiring for students to see how kids who are operating during the height of the crisis, well, hopefully the height of the crisis, what they were thinking and feeling. So I'll just play just a quick little.
Joanna, I can't hear it on my end.
Oh, you can't hear it? Okay. I think what I have to do is take out my headphones hear my children running like mad in the background. Apologies. Okay, let's see.
Love National History
Does that work?
It's a fun class.
I hear it now.
And share your ideas. Because it enables you to broaden your knowledge within a subject. A program that lets us explore our talents and our strengths and get to share that with the nation.
It gives me a worthy challenge, forces me out of my comfort zone, and not many things do that.
I love NHD because it shows there are many ways to interpret the history, so there's not just one way to present the story.
You know, history is more than men and white ways. You know, science.
Okay, so just the cuteness is too much. These kids are so great, but it goes on. It's just a couple minutes long. This might be a great tool to help you get kids excited for a project that they probably can't really visualize or understand the big scope of it all when they're at their laptop in their room or when they're with, you know, half their class every other day. This video is linked in our student toolkit and teacher toolkit, but I'd love to hear from you. What are you seeing as effective ways to keep your kids engaged in your classroom? If you're not seeing any effective ways, that's okay. You can say that too. You know, I'm an educator, so I can sit here all the live long day.
I'll just jump in long enough to say that, you know, my situation's so different this year. I'm still tackling all kinds of stuff, so I'm not sure I have much to add yet on that. But I will share if I can think of any.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Well, I work for a virtual school already. And so we found, even with our increased enrollment, what's been motivating kids to come is like having them pick their own topics, you know, having them be engaged in their actual work. So giving them a lot of student choice and not just giving them the busy work assignments that they need to get done and turned in. So I think we'll have some, you know, specific live classes where they'll come, investigate the topic together, but trying to steer them towards individual topics that really they become passionate about. That becomes self-motivation, and offering them ways to interact with each other when they don't get a lot of interaction. That's been like kind of high on our students list as well. You know, well, what can we join that we're actually going to be able to interact with other students?
That's great
even if
to
it's in
hear.
a virtual setting.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So student choice, yay for National History Day. And connections, letting them make connections with their peers. That's great. Okay, if you have any other ways, feel free to shout it out or put in the chat. I think that keeping students motivated was already challenging. So I'm really grateful to hear Emily's experience where she's already been at a virtual school, giving kids that choice and using the time you do have together to make connections between students. Great info. Another question that we have been hearing is, how am I going to find time to do NHD this year? I know you have so much content to cover. Half of last year never happened. So it is, it can be daunting to figure out how to figure out using your time. And I have lots of thoughts, but just my number one best tip for you is don't recreate the wheel, use what's already out there. I am a big fan of the Stanford History Education Group. You probably can tell because I steal their stuff and put it in my teacher toolkit all the time. But they have some really great activities. Like I said, you don't have to recreate the wheel, it's already there. No matter what you're teaching, if it's US history, world civ, European history, they have primary source activities to help develop the skills that we want, no matter what your content is. So find activities or things that you can do with your students. that already cover the content that you need to do. So you're embedding and layering those skills into your content before you even get into National History Day. I picked this quick example of the Chicago race riots of 1919 because it feels so relevant to what's happening today. This was following the Spanish flu pandemic. There were race riots then as well. And in this activity, SHAG provides several accounts from primary source documents about the race riots, and students are able to read them and analyze them, compare the different accounts, and determine what they think happened. So this is a great way to help get student voice out because they're analyzing and using their own words to decide what they think happened after reading different accounts. So if there is anything that we can do to help you figure out how you're going to pace this year, we'd be happy to. We have a lot of things in the teacher toolkit already to help you plan out your calendar. But with this year being crazy, that's my number one advice to you is you don't have to create all your own things. Find the things that are already out there and use your instruction time a little bit differently than you normally would. This kind of connects with what Emily was saying. If you have limited time with your kids, use videos, use an activity like this that students can do on their own, and then use your time with them to discuss and make connections and give feedback and those more, make that time more effective by having them do the work or receive instruction through videos or other activities. So then when you're with them, you're really getting to discuss and give feedback and do all of that good stuff. So does anybody out there have any suggestions for how you can find the time this year to do NHD, or how you're going to try to make a go of it? Oh dear, the faces are bleak.
Well, one thing we're actually going to try is we're going to offer National History Day as an optional club, so that they can do some of the assignments in their history class, and then because not instead of like requiring participation in it for like their history project, it's going to be offered as like an optional extra club that they can join. So all the students will still be able to do all of the like digging into the different resources, etc. But trying to fit in all of the like contest rules, like all of it, we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, yep, for sure. For sure. Ryan, would you mind talking a bit about what you're up to?
Sure. I'm not in the classroom this year. My school district wouldn't give us any kind of protection at all. They're full back with no masks, and I'm immunocompromised, and so I have been looking at other routes, not just for NHD, but employment. So it's been quite an adventure, but I'm working on making some connections with several groups that connect to homeschool students, and I'm kind of freelance teaching, and so because of that, I'm offering kind of a coaching experience, and as Emily talked about, a chance for kids to get together and interact and share ideas, trying to replicate some of that excitement for NHD for a lot of the kids that are staying at home. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm still working on that. Working on a lot of things right now.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I think your situation is much more common than you probably know, and finding alternative ways or alternative opportunities for students to supplement what they're doing is going to be so important this year. So I really appreciate Emily and Ryan, you both sharing. Anybody else have any thoughts?
One thing I know that on my Can you hear me? That's
Yep, we got you, Shannon.
Our elementary teachers, we had a couple in our district that wanted to do NHD. And so they just took what they were already doing in class. So the American Revolution, they were 5th grade teachers. It's a big US history topic in 5th grade. And they just had the kids, they looked at the theme. So how can we look at the American Revolution? We're learning about it anyway. So now let's apply the theme for this year and find those connections. And then she just had them do exhibits, like Jeff said. That's one of the easier things as a teacher to have kids do is an exhibit. So that's one way too, like kind of what you were saying, you're already teaching stuff anyway, so just apply the theme to it. Don't make it on top of, make it just a part of what you're already doing. And that seems to be, that way you don't feel like you're just piling it on and piling it on and piling it on, not only to us as the teachers, but as the kids as well.
Yeah, thanks so much, Shannon. That's really, really helpful to hear. And I would say to just make it easy on yourself. Make it as easy as you can with everything going on this year. NHD is so customizable and so flexible. You can have students do certain categories or stay within a certain, time period in history, given what you're doing in content. But if you're just feeling overwhelmed and like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, reach out to us and let us help you, or just take the bits and pieces and parts of the program that will work for you this year and use them, and don't worry about the rest. Okay. Next up, the last question we are hearing is, how are we going to do NHD if we're in and out of the classroom all year long? Yeah, that could be, could very well end up that we're all kind of, I've heard it referred to as the hammer and the dance, where cases go up, shut things down, and then we kind of dance our way back in over time. That could end up being the whole year. So I just wanted to share with you some tips for virtual learning. Set up a routine and stick to it. It's so hard to figure out virtual learning. It's very emotionally exhausting for students, right? To figure out this whole new way of being. So set up your routine, stick to it, and be consistent. Students find the assignment in the same place every time. They turn it into the same place every time. The deadline is the same place, is the same day of the week or same time every week, every month. Just the more consistency you can build into your routine and into how you're doing National History Day, the better. And then simplify what you're doing. I know there's so much ed tech out there right now, and it's just like being shoved in our faces, and you don't have to do everything. You can pick 1 or 2 tools that work for you and that you're comfortable with, and get your students really comfortable with those and stick to those for the year. Use templates. You can have the same assignment template time after time after time, and students will always recognize what you're giving them and what they need to do, because it's consistent, it's routine, it's the same. As you're doing National History Day, consider grading fewer assignments with more detail. I think formative assessment goes really hand in hand with National History Day, and instead of constantly grading different things, maybe you're just reading a third of your class's first draft thesis and the next third's second draft, and providing as much feedback as you can. But try, set it up so you can be successful and make your feedback meaningful. And finally, don't overwhelm students with all the things that they can read and watch and do. Maybe consider making parts of National History Day or part of what you're doing as bonuses for students who want more and need more, and the kids who are just barely staying afloat can go, phew, not doing that. These are just some tips. I've been taking a virtual instruction class that I wanted to share with you that really resonated with me. And I I have my 3 sons are virtual learning and and they did all spring. So I feel like I'm seeing like the other side. I've got the teacher side and I'm seeing the dirty, seedy underside of virtual learning, which is from the parents' point of view. And my sweet 7th grader has to work next to me because he's naughty and I have to supervise him on his computer. So I'm enjoying doing 7th grade again and learning and seeing what he's doing. And these were the tips that really resonated with me, that just that routine, that simplicity, the same things that work in your classroom work online too. Just keep it easy for you and for them. Do you have any tips that you would share that you have found that have helped you as you're doing the hybrid or the virtual or the hammer and the dance? Emily, you're probably like, I could tell you a million things. But what is like really, are you like, oh, I wish I knew this already, or this is really helping me out? And I guess a lot of you in Eastern Idaho, I know you're actually in person. So this, I guess, will maybe be good for you later when your cases go up. Hopefully they don't, but just in case.
I have 5 face-to-face classes, and then I've got 30 kids, 7th and 8th grade, that I do that are online. That
do virtual.
Yeah, that they're like, hey, can you just monitor their progress? Sure. No, I have to teach them and grade it, and I didn't create that curriculum. So
yeah, Jeff, what are you doing? Jeff, are you in person?
Yeah, so District 91 is in person. We're kind of lucky in the sense that we get 4 days in school, and then Friday is an online instructional day, and that's how we're going to skin it. Is Friday will be our National History Day for our honors classes. Everyone has the same Google Classroom. All of our honors kids are in there. We've been doing this at Eagle Rock this is my 7th year. And so we kind of have a handle on things. We will definitely scale back on sources, on expectations. And I kind of like the idea of not overwhelming them. They're already in the poo canoe, as I like to call it. And it's just going to get worse. So,
yeah, I'm definitely stealing poo canoe. That feels like
that's the PG way of saying that.
Yeah, that feels like a very apt term for.
So, and
I think that's cool.
We still want them to have the honors experience because we do it as an honors class, but they've got a lot of other concerns right now, and so I think the scaled back version will help, but still pushing them to go above and beyond. So that's how we're going to skin this.
I love that. Thanks for sharing your mantra. That's really helpful. I have to say too, in the spring, everyone was like, we're scaling back. And then Idaho kids totally knocked it out of the park. And we had like 1st place, 4th place, 7th place. So when you guys scale back, you do pretty great. You do quite nicely. Anybody else have any tips or anything they would share?
The stuff you've listed is it's best practice for online. You just have to you have to decide what is absolutely essential, and then you just focus on those.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, if you have any other questions or concerns, Ben and I are going to hang around. We'd be happy to chat with you. We just really appreciate all the work that you're doing, and we want you to know that we're cheering for you and we're here for you. And if we can do anything to support you, Jeff, that was so helpful to just say, I need this, and then we can just make it and get it to you. That's really helpful. Thank you so much. All right, thanks everybody. We'll hang out.
Guys.
All right. I have a quick question, hopefully. Maybe it's not so quick. So I'm new as the teacher admin for National History Day, but I've had my own students participate in National History Day for a while, my own children. So now, as a virtual school, as I was reading through the rules, our virtual school covers the entire state of Idaho. So, right. So our students would have to, like, they have to compete within their like physical residence region, correct? Or we do the residents of our school?
Yeah. So are you IDVLA?
No, we're IHLA. It's out of Oneida School District.
Yeah, so we don't really care. That's the answer.
Well, because I'm like, the number of students I'll actually have participating, if I try to do a school contest and send our school contest to regionals, I wouldn't have enough to fill all the regions. So then I could do like a school regional contest and have, but like I said, I mean, we have students from every single part of the state. So I would probably have students in every single region participating.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can sign up in every region and have those students. I just don't know, like, how do you want me to do it?
Challenging. Yeah, so
or you can even think about it and get back to me. Registration won't be for a while, but just as we're setting it up on our end, if we're going to participate in, Malad, Oneida, that southeastern area, then we'll definitely do our school contest first. But if we're going to have our students participate in the region that they physically live, then I'm going to set up our school contest a little bit different.
Yeah, we would I want to make it easier for you. So it seems to me like having your kids compete where they live would make sense if we were having physical contests, but since we're not, I am comfortable with you picking one region. And is Oneida in Eastern or South Central? I'll check on that. I'll check on which district you're in. Ben, maybe you could check on that on our schedule, on our content.
It says Oneida counties are in Eastern Idaho.
Okay.
So I was assuming that it would be Eastern Idaho.
Well, do you know, are you Region 5 or Region 6?
For like our school district?
Yeah.
Oh, I forget.
So
that sounds bad.
I don't know where.
It's in Malad.
Malad would be Region 5.
Okay.
So Johanna, I don't know how you guys have it set up.
Ours is aligned with the judicial districts for reasons I don't know. So yeah, I think that you are. I think you are Eastern.
Okay. I mean, the majority, I would say probably half of our students this year in that age range live more in Western, West Ada, Boise, in that area. But I mean, I didn't know, like, equity wise, does it matter what regional contest they're participating in?
Not really. This year we've combined down so that we have less regions, so that we have kind of a more equitable number of students participating in each of the regionals. So I think it would probably make the most sense for you to do Eastern, or the South Central Treasure Valley contest is Boise and Twin area.
Because do all of your students participate in regionals, or do you do school contest and you move up so many of them?
In states where there are a ton of kids doing NHD, they do school level contests before the regionals. Here we don't.
You don't? Okay.
We don't, but some schools do choose to do that because they want to do their own school event as well.
Okay. I mean, our school event would be virtual. If we don't have to, then I guess it doesn't really matter. If we don't have to do a school event and we do a practice virtual one so they know what they're up against with the regional one, then it's really more how you guys would rather have us.
How many kids are we talking?
That's the hard part. So,
Shannon isn't in the Eastern region, so she's like, give me numbers here. What do we got?
Because our high school is brand new. We only go through 9th and 10th. And total, I mean, we only have 360 kids enrolled in the high school completely. So, you know, maybe would have 100 kids actually finish their projects and be ready to compete for high school, for the 9th and 10th senior level. For our junior level, I don't imagine that I'd have more than 100 kids. I mean, we have like 7,000 total in our school. It's huge for this year.
Yeah.
But
okay, Emily, can Ben and I strategize? Where we
yes,
think
please.
would
That's
be,
why
like,
I was
a great
like
fit for you?
throwing this out.
Because we don't care about the geography of it. We just want to have like space, you know, equal spacing.
Right.
So
and until
we'll
I have them like
strategize.
actually register with me, we've kind of like put out, because we held a in the spring, we kind of introduced it with the breaking barriers, and we did our own like mini contest with 7th and 8th graders, not participating in the regionals. I mean, this was once COVID hit, to try to get them involved in history class, and they were excited, and it worked really well. And so a lot of them were like, we want to do this again for real and actually, you know, compete.
Yeah.
Right. So that was kind of like our soft, let's see how many kids we have interested. So it may be way less than that, but I wouldn't think we would have more than 100 in each division in the middle school. And we're only doing it for the 7th, 8th graders, and then our 9th, 10th. We're not doing it for the elementary this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
Ben and I will chat and get back to you.
Yeah, so Sand Creek, as far as I know, I don't think we're going to have NHD this year. With the online class that I'm teaching as well, to try to create a club, and we don't have our honors classes this year. And so to try to fit it in like as a club or something, I can't invite any high school kids because they won't let me cross-contaminate buildings. So I can't have them come in. And that was why I was really excited, that a bunch of kids who said they were going to come and do it. But I foresee that me just really honestly just helping with the back end this year. So last year, Sand Creek had 100 kids. So, but if Emily has
even out.
If Emily has 200 coming in, that would definitely be even more than we had last year.
Well,
and our regional,
and I mean,
400 kids.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to think on that and get back to you. But Shannon, we'll take you however we get you. Well, did you have a question?
Yes. So 2 of my boys are out of elementary now, and they don't have Ingrid Youngin helping them and, you know, having a project. So is there somebody they need to check in with at North or Treasure Valley Math and Science to be their sponsor teacher?
Yeah. Oh, Ingrid. Okay. Yes.
Well, I have one in Ingrid still.
You have one in Ingrid still?
And then the other one's with Gretchen Carter, but he's in 3rd grade. Is he still 1 year too young?
Yeah, so he's still 1 year too young.
Okay.
I mean, he can still do an NHD project. We just don't have a contest for him. But, you know, do it. And he does it. So he needs to have a teacher as a sponsor.
Okay.
But a parent can be the sponsor.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So if he's not with Ingrid, I do think we have someone else at North who's participating this year. I'll just have to check on that.
Maybe it could go with his, he has to take world studies as an 8th grader. And then there's my other kid, Luke, he's the one that won the first place in Idaho for the Pearl Harbor. He could either use Shanda Pasulich, who's the research teacher at Treasure Valley, or probably his world studies teacher, right?
Yeah, either of them can kind of like give him feedback and encourage him as he's going along and point him in the right direction, and can be like his teacher that he's registered under, or it can be you. See you, Shannon. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Okay, sounds good. So it's just up to us who we want to pick.
Yeah.
Okay, very
totally.
good.
No official rules there.
Okay, and we also still have, you know, the Watts is helping us navigate this. So.
Oh, good.
Okay,
Awesome.
thank you. I appreciate your time tonight.
No problem. See you.
Have a good evening.
Thanks. You too, Ben.
Oh man, Emily.
That's okay. I just have, well, it's kind of a unique, like unique situation. And you guys really can talk about it. My other question was, I mean, I have other teachers that are like going to incorporate some of it into classes, etc. But is it fine if I act as the teacher for all of them, both high school and the middle school ones?
Yes.
Or do I have to list the individual classroom teachers?
No, and that's pretty common that a school will have one teacher be the one that's like handling all the registrations and stuff like that. So it's no problem.
Okay. All right. I think those were my main questions. And then, yeah, just how you want me to structure. I mean, I won't know until I actually get our registration, which we haven't, that's going to be sent out like next week, the initial one. So it may be way less than 200. I won't know till I send it out.
Yeah.
It just definitely won't be more than that. And so I didn't want to overwhelm like one small region if it would be better for us to split up.
Yeah. I know it's hard for us to know for this year too, Ben, right? Because everything's nuts. But my thought is I think Eastern would probably be a good place for you to go, but it may even be better to have all the high school kids go to Boise and all the middle kids go to Eastern.
Okay. I mean, we don't have to decide this till I register in like January, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we definitely will not make you like register at every regional.
Okay. That was my biggest one, was like, oh yeah, trying to manage, you know, that many different regional contests to be present for and prep the kids for. So yes, if there's a way that I can split it between two, that would be ideal. All right, thank you. We're super excited about doing this year.
We're so happy to have you, Emily. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
See you. Have
Thanks
a good
for
one.
joining. Bye.